Hello and welcome everyone to today's chatty moment together. We are going to be spending a little bit of time in my sunroom, my favorite place in my house, taking a break from the sewing room today. If we haven't met yet, I'm Leah from Darwin Textiles. I run the handmade clothing business, and then I also sell sewing patterns of all of my designs. And this is gonna be like a real show and tell story time. I'm thinking if you wanna put this on while you're sewing, and you can peek back in at me every once in a while to see what I'm showing you. But just to start, I am wearing yes, a turtleneck because it's still freaking cold here in New Hampshire. We haven't gotten any cute warm weather like other places have, but I'm wearing my sample copy of the new sewing pattern I'm going to be putting out soon. So that's the Argent and Sable dress. It's kind of a weird name, I know. It's named after a species of moth. A lot of my names of my garments, they're based off of, I think I started with moth names, then I ran out of those, I went to butterflies, and then I went into bird species, so that's where that stuff comes from. But I'll stand up a little bit. The dress in my sample, I made it with my plant-dyed sage green, which will be available for people who buy the sewing kits, and it's just like a real dusty green color. It's really like muted, not too bright. It's very earthy. And on mine, I did the plain cap sleeves and the deep V-neck, which would look a lot more a cute deep V without a turtleneck on. But on the final pattern, the cap sleeves are going to be a little bit less poofy. There will be a ruffle sleeve option that will be ruffly. But yeah, I sewed mine up to sew the video sewing tutorial, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Like, I'm excited to add this to my final wardrobe, and I did the pearly buttons on mine. And I think it's just great for layering. It's got the waist ties, so I could tie it up in front and do more of a cinched waist, but we've got these big pockets. And then I made a second copy of it to try out the tank top version, because you can make this as a dress or a tank top, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. So this one I did the ruffle sleeves on, and I think they turned out so freaking cute. I did the pearly buttons again. It's just like the dress, except the skirt of the dress ends at like a tank top level. And then the biggest surprise that I'm so excited to show you is I did a quilty back. It turned out so freaking cute. Basically, I did some patchwork or piecework or whatever you call it, you know, to make all my triangles in the back. And then I cut out my pattern piece from it. And it's a fully lined garment, so you don't see any of those seams in the back. So I'll put a blog post up when I launch this pattern about how I did that, and I'll share measurements and stuff like that. And for this color, I did dark indigo fabric for the whole thing, and then the lighter color on the back is my light indigo. The pattern is going to be launching, I think, April 30th. It will be on sale for the first 2 weeks. So that's the best time to get any of my patterns, is those first 2 weeks. You can get them at a discount. And I'll be sharing a lot more content at that time about everything about this pattern. If you want to know more about it though along the way and make sure you're on the wait list for it, then go ahead and join my email newsletter over at my website. Oh, something else new that I haven't caught you up on yet is my cutting and ironing table in my sewing room. Right at the start of the year, I handmade my own really big dream table for the center of my sewing room, and it turned out really nice. I'm actually gonna save a tour of that for the end of the video, I think, because I already filmed it and it's like 5 minutes long. I don't want to bore you with it, so stick around for the end of the video if you want to see exactly what I did. It's like really transformed and like made me feel a lot more polished and organized and clean about everything I do, and it was really fun to put together and not too hard. So anyway, I'll put that at the end of the video. And then in other news, just catching up on fun creative projects that I've got going on. This one is a little bit weird. So last October, we were driving to go on a hike in Vermont. We're on our way there and we pass a garage sale. We stop by and we see someone talking to the woman at the garage sale about the boat she has in the yard. And then I'm like, yeah, wait, that is a cool boat. Whoa. And I go over and look at it. It's a 1958 Tomahawk. You know, that didn't mean much to me, but 1958 was cool. It was this really old, like vintage but restored boat. She was selling it for $500, but with no seats in it yet. They had restored it most of the way, but didn't finish the project. We went on our hike, we thought about it. We know nothing about boats. Nothing. We mostly loved it because it was so vintage. And we love basking in the sun and weird adventures. So we asked to buy it and we purchased it from them, brought it home, parked it in the garage, and we're currently building seats, which brings me, you're probably like, Leah, why are you sharing your boat on this sewing YouTube channel? But the fun part about the seats is I have to upholster the cushions for it. So I got like a sample of the marine vinyl I'm going to be working with, which is so funny because it's like the exact opposite, you know, of everything Charlie Darwin as far as like being linen and biodegradable. But that's what you got to use for boats, man. And I'm not making linen boat seats, I'll tell you that. You probably could. You could probably like wax them with beeswax or something. But I'm not doing that. I'm getting the stuff that people use on boats. I'm hoping my Singer heavy duty machine will just cruise right through it. Fingers crossed that we don't break too many needles in the process. I'm going to be adding like a white piping border around the edges. So yeah, it's funny to think about like a boat as being a sewing project, but it's going to be. I'll post a picture in my email newsletter, of course, once I have the boat seats finished. Something I've been working on lately more intimately, but not super frequently, not as frequently as I want to, is a little bit of hand stitching. So I'll show you this, and if you've been following my journey for many years now, you might remember I posted some, I think it was probably just like stories on Instagram a few years ago that I had started a tapestry. I was using scraps of my plant-dyed fabric. I'm giving you teasers of it, so I'll just show the full thing. Can you see it? So this was when in 2022, I think I was sort of in a life crossroads of had started a PhD program in Pittsburgh, and I was also running this business at the same time. I had kind of two career paths competing with each other, and neither one was doing super well. I wasn't loving the PhD program, and because I was doing the PhD program, I was really putting a lot of my business aside. And I wasn't doing much marketing, I wasn't getting many sales, but I wanted to just at least just keep making something, just do something, keep sewing, and also make something just for me as well. So anyway, that was kind of the mindset at the time. Things have shifted a ton since then. I quit the PhD program. My business is doing great full time, yada yada. But at the time, I started this tapestry, and I actually did the majority of what you see here, which is like all of the applique sewing, and then like the regular piecework on the second half. I'm trying to show the whole thing. And so I got it all basically put together then. And after that, I didn't finish it. Like most projects, you know, we start and they make it 80% and then die in a closet. So this one sat in a closet for a few years, but now it lives by my couch. I got it out the other day because I really wanted to start doing something creative while watching TV or sitting on the couch, especially in these winter months. I think that's relatable for most people. I've heard a lot of people, you know, obviously knit and crochet so much more in the winter, but I don't really do those things. So the first thing I did actually before I got to that tapestry was I ordered this book online called The Hand Sewn Wardrobe. I think I heard about it in a podcast, maybe someone recommended it. I think it's a relatively new book by Louisa Owen Sandstrom, and I'm saying that wrong, but you know, here we are. And I got it because I was like, oh man, a couple people have asked me if they could hand stitch Charlie Darwin garments, like using my patterns, and the answer is yeah, you can do anything you want. You can hand stitch anything you want. There's no reason why you can't hand stitch my garments. It's just a matter of like patience and, you know, learning the seam finishes by hand and buttonholes by hand. There's nothing holding someone back except for patience and willpower, really. But it got me thinking, hey, that would be kind of cool. I kind of want to do that. I've never hand stitched one of my own garments. I've been really inspired, of course, looking at Alabama Channon's garments and kits that they sell. It's a lot of like hand sewing, hand embellishment work, and so I thought, okay, I kind of want to do that. So I ordered this book. This is while the Tapestry is still in the closet. I ordered this book. I read the first few chapters. It does seem very helpful and gave me a lot of good tips. But then this switch happened in my brain where I was like, okay, before I start a garment, I should finish the thing that's in my closet first. If I'm gonna be hand stitching anything, I should hand stitch the thing that I never finished first. So that's when this bad boy came back out, because I really wanted to make it like quilty, meaning that it has, you know, the 3 layers, the front, the batting, and a backing. And I want to hand quilt it together with hand stitching so that it's really high texture on the linen. So I got this out as my first hand stitching project. It also doesn't require any like clean seam lines. And I am making slowly but surely some progress on it. So you can see I'm kind of doing the stitching within each piece so that it kind of adds to the design. So far I've only gotten done, I think, a lot of the petals of the flowers. I still need to do this part down here and then move down onto the bottom half down here. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet for that. Probably just straight lines, probably something to make it go a little quicker. But yeah, this is all my plant dyed fabric scraps. I think these yellow petals are onion skins, the brown is tea, the blue is indigo, the gray is tea and iron, and I just chose like a crappy old blue linen that I had for the backing because I think I want to hang this up as a wall tapestry. So once I'm done hand stitching it all, I'll do the binding. I don't know yet what I want to do for the binding color around the edges, but I'm excited for it. And it's a little goofy and silly and weird and a little bit creepy. I don't know, the faces are cute. I can't tell if it's childish or creepy or neither, or hippie or 70s. I don't know. But I love it. I'm excited to hang it up. I will finish it, I hope. Spring is coming and my time indoors is dwindling, so I gotta get on it. But once I'm done with it, then I'm gonna move on, hopefully, to hand stitching a Charlie Darwin garment. And I think I'll start with an easy garment just to start off. Maybe like my saltwater top, just because it has so few seams, or my saltwater shorts or my harvester shorts, just because shorts also require less fabric. I feel like something in your lap or carrying around to different places, you don't want like a bunch of fabric, you know, trailing off. So I want to start small and manageable. For my tapestry, I was using like the DMC, am I getting that right? The thread that's just like your typical embroidery thread, embroidery floss. It's cotton. That's what I'm using for that. I think though for the garment, I'd love you guys' recommendations. If you've ever hand stitched clothing before, what would you use to hand stitch a linen garment? I am going to try out a linen thread, I think, soon. Maybe. The place where I get my thread wholesale from, they have a linen like hand sewing thread on there. So I might try that, but if you have any other ideas, I have heard to like use beeswax to wax the thread so that it doesn't tangle. So I'm gonna do that, but any recommendations would be appreciated. And also I just want to kind of float the idea generally, like if anyone's interested in hand sewing a Charlie Darwin garment also, whether it's your first time or you've sewn a bunch or just a couple or whatever, and you want to do it with me, I think that would be really fun. Just really low pressure, really low pressure to perform something. The garment can also turn out super ugly, and that'd be fun too. Okay, that's that. All right, so I'm going to shift a little bit into sharing more of the businessy side of things. If you're interested to stick around, it's still very creative work, but just so you know, kind of like, where's Charlie Darwin at? You know, I said all these fun personal projects, but where is Charlie Darwin at this season? What am I working on with that? What do I got coming down the pipeline? Where's my mindset? So my business mindset for this year, for 2026, I know we're already in April, but at the beginning of the year, I set my word of the year to be easy mode. And what I meant by that was that I've been in business for 5 years now. I should have started the video with that. I've been in business for 5 years now. That is amazing. Charlie Darwin has been here for half a decade, and it's grown into something beautiful. Thank you so much for continuing to be here with me and supporting the business. I don't know, thank you so much to past me for starting it and for continuing with it even when it felt hard. I am so grateful that we've persevered, and to be honest, I always set out from the time that I started the business. I said I want to do this for 5 years at least. Like, I'm not going to quit this, because when you start stuff like a creative business, it's so easy to just start it and then you feel embarrassed one day about it, and you feel shame, you feel failure, and you just quit. And you're like, oh well, on to the next thing. But I really persevered through a lot of those emotions over the last 5 years, because I went in with the mindset of like, doesn't matter, I'm gonna do it for 5 years. Because I also had heard it takes at least 5 years to build up a business that is sustainable, that has more successes than failures and things like that. And it did. I'd say it pretty much took all 5 of those years to work. And while there's a lot of things that are frustrating still about my business, I do feel like it's working. I feel like I am enjoying it. I don't know, I've made it. I've made it to my 5 years, and I, at this point, am kind of thinking about, do I want to set the goal for 10 years? And I think that I do. So anyway, we've got many years ahead of us. That was such a side tangent. So my word of the year this year is easy mode. And I think because the last 5 years, at least the first 4 years, felt like I was working on hard mode. To sum that up, that's kind of like meaning like I had a lack of systems, or I was just taking garment orders whenever. I was saying yes to everything. I was maybe charging less for things that took me a long time because I needed the sale. I was doing a lot of things manually that could have been automated. All those things. But this year, the word is easy mode, and that's not necessarily expecting that this year is going to feel easy, but I am actively working towards less complexity, more systems, more organization, so that in the future, this business feels easier. But actually setting all those things up better isn't easy. So for example, something this year that I'm really excited to have started, but is actually been really hard and hopefully makes my life easier in the long term, is Sew Your Dream Linen Wardrobe. If you've been following me a little bit, this has been the big thing I've put out in 2026. It's not necessarily a product, it's more like a free compilation, organization of all of my knowledge and free assets so that you can sew your dream linen wardrobe with kind of a space held for you, a framework to do it, a path that feels a little bit more clear than just, I'm gonna do this thing, I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I'm just gonna try it, and not really have any kind of guideline to guide you through that. So Sew Your Dream Linen Wardrobe, for that makes it easy mode for you, because I'm giving you this pathway with all these tools and resources and patterns and step-by-step kind of how to get there without it hopefully feeling overwhelming. That's what's supposed to make it easy mode for you. What's supposed to make it easy mode for me is that once I get that kind of organization and structure set up on my website and linked in my YouTube videos and stuff like that, it should be then easy mode for me to help you, to hopefully get you plugged into my ecosystem and my world and my way that I can teach and support you. So it's easy mode in that way once I get it all set up. But what turned out to be really hard about that was so much technology involved. So, organizing all these free resources on my website was a little bit tough. It's just been easier said than done. So something else I'm doing this year a little bit differently to try and make things a little easier is doing my made-to-measure clothing as a pre-order model. And yes, I sell made-to-measure clothing. In addition to the sewing patterns, I am also selling garments sewn by me, cut to customers' custom height, body height, and size. And so that requires a lot of time and input and labor from me still. And I think at this point this makes up about 1/8 of my income for the year. And while I plan to keep sewing these custom garments throughout this year, I love sewing. I think it's keeping me fresh on sewing techniques. It's just hard because it takes up a lot of my time, and it's not necessarily something that I'm interested in outsourcing to someone else, to hiring someone to sew with me or for me. No, I'm not super interested in that. But what I have been doing this year to make it a lot more manageable for me is batching all of the garment sewing into pre-order batches, into 1 week that I sew. So on my website, you'll notice now that if you go to buy an actual garment from me, it says it's on pre-order, and pre-orders will ship, for example, end of May 2025. So this gives me about 2 months to stack up orders, and then I can sew them all in 1 week and just really hunker down at the sewing machine, get them all done, and that way it doesn't interrupt other things. And so that's working pretty well so far. And something fun that has come out of my garment made-to-measure clothing lately is that I had 2 women reach out to me saying that they wanted to do a 100 days challenge in a Charlie Darwin dress. And what that means, if you're not familiar, I think this originated with the brand Wool and. I think a few years ago, they started a challenge called the 100 Days Challenge, inviting their customers to wear their wool dress, pick one dress, and wear it for 100 days straight. Every single day, 100 days straight. And I think it was a fun social media challenge. I wasn't a part of it, and I've never tried it, but I have heard of it, and I think it's a really fun, fantastic idea. So these 2 women wanted to try doing this challenge wearing a linen Charlie Darwin dress, and they're going to wear it for 100 days leading up to an event they're hosting in Wisconsin, I think, called Flax to Fiber. I think it's Field to Fiber, where it's a linen event. They're going to be talking about how linen turns into garments and everything that goes into that. So they picked out each a dress. One of them picked out the Isabella Tiger dress in charcoal gray. And then the other one picked out this dress, the Argent Sable dress in tea brown. And they so far have recorded a good amount of their day-to-day wearing this dress over on Instagram. So I'll make sure that I tag them here or in the description so you guys can follow along and see how it turns out. It's so fun. That's one of my favorite parts about sewing with a plant-based fabric that's dyed with plants, is thinking about this transformational lifetime that a garment is going to go through. These clothes have already, the fabric itself has already gone through such a frickin' transformation, from the flax plant to the fiber to becoming a fabric, then sewn into a garment, dyed with plants that turned into pigments to dye the thing. And then once it's on your body, the journey doesn't stop. That's the really fun part about this 100-day challenge, is it's condensing a lifetime of a garment almost into 100 days. You can almost see it on fast mode, how the garment is probably going to, I imagine, transform little bits every day as it reacts to the pH of your skin and gets softer as you do a lot of different motions and interact with your environment. And sure, maybe in 100 days, there will be a button that pops off. There will be a time that you are monkeying around and something just kind of tweaks a little bit. You have to mend it. You spill something and it changes the pH, and I don't know, like there's so much of the clothes that are just ready to interact with their environment. And I love thinking about that. I don't know if I could do it myself, wearing the same thing for 100 days. Could I do it? Could you do it? That's why it's a challenge. I do think that's why it's a challenge. I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll try it as well. But for now, we can all follow along with these two, Leslie and Jessica, and see how it goes for them. And then my last update for you is really exciting, a totally new thing for Charlie Darwin in some stores in person. You could actually go buy my patterns in real life at a couple places, maybe like 3 or 4 places now. I'll put the names up on the screen. I think hopefully editor me will do that. We'll put the names up on the screen of the stores that have kindly decided to sell Charlie Darwin sewing patterns in real life on their shelves. And this came to be because a beautiful soul named Izzy emailed me, I think maybe in January, saying that she was just leaving a job in Philadelphia where I lived before this. And so she was looking for work, wanted to know if I needed any help with anything. And I saw on her resume she had some experience with like setting up wholesale accounts and stuff like that. And it's been something I've been thinking about, but I don't feel like I have the time or the bandwidth for it or the gusto, because to pitch yourself to stores to see if they'll carry your products, like my printed sewing patterns, it requires a lot of like cold calls, cold emailing. Like you're sending out an email to someone who doesn't know you, asking them, hey, do you like my thing? Do you want to sell it in your store? I know you have limited shelf space. And I knew that this endeavor was going to be one of those where you can expect a lot of no's, of asking and people either not writing back or saying no. And that's a very energy intensive type of work that requires a lot of resilience and like confidence in that what you do is still good. So I've been putting it off for a while and it hasn't quite been a priority. I also don't make the most profit off of doing wholesale, but I still thought it'd be cool, and I think it's a cool way to get my patterns out to more people. So when Izzy reached out to me, I thought, yeah, cool. I've had her on basically for the last few months. She's working about 5 hours a week for me, and she's getting wholesale accounts like set up with retailers for me. And so now I'm so excited to announce that you can find Charlie Darwin in some stores, that we've set up some accounts with people who have stocked, up to 50 of my patterns, like 50 copies of my patterns in their shop. And I really want to extend out to you all to, if you have a favorite sewing shop locally, or just somewhere you've been or you go frequently, that you would love if they carried Charlie Darwin sewing patterns, like the printed copies of them in person, please make a request. Please, please, please make a request. You can jot down this website, my website, to show them so they can look it up. I now have a wholesale page on my website, so retailers who are interested can learn more and then make an account with me and then purchase at wholesale pricing. All right, this has been really fun to catch you up on at least most of the stuff that's been going on around here. I'm so excited for this year and what it has to bring. I'm loving New Hampshire, if you're wondering. I moved here last June, so we're almost a year in, and it's just been so beautiful here. I can't wait to get out on our boat. It's so exciting. And I'm wishing you the best. I'm hoping that you have some just fun little magical breeze up your butt today that makes you feel alive. And that's all we can really ask for, right? My sewing pattern for the Argent Sable dress launches in, by the time this video is up, maybe 3 weeks, 2 weeks. When is April 30th? It launches on April 30th. So stay tuned for that. You can make sure that you're updated by making sure you're on my email newsletter list. If you're interested in the DIY cutting and ironing table that I made for my sewing room, stay on for that. I want to introduce you to my new cutting table in the Charlie Darwin studio. I'm so happy with how it turned out. This is basically at the center of my sewing room. Zoom out. It's not super clean, but it's not super dirty either. You're catching it in a midway stage. The cutting table is the spot where I both iron and cut out all of my fabric and garments. I can do both because it is a padded ironing surface, and then I use my electric rotary cutter to cut out all of my fabric, which has like a guard so it doesn't cut through my ironing mat. So my vision for this table was that it could be very, very multi-purpose. And I have some things that I think I did really well on it, so things I need to finish up, some things I would change. But ultimately, it's just made up of two like modular cubby unit things. You can get these at Target or IKEA. And so I did two of those. And then I got like the IKEA little door inserts, and I got these pull-out bins. I wanted everything. My goal for this sewing room is to keep it as dust-free as possible. And so I try to keep everything kind of like closed off. So much dust and lint is just created from sewing that I'm trying to keep things tucked in more now. So the thing about it, it's the perfect height for me to also store bolts of fabric underneath. And then I've got my big scrap bin of white fabric. So I've got more scraps and all of these cubbies. And then I have the cubbies resting on a giant, nice, fancy piece of plywood that I stained. And it's all sitting on 4 casters all the way around so that I can roll it around, which isn't super necessary, but I do like having it that way because I have my projector on the ceiling so that I can do projector pattern cutting. And sometimes I just need to like shift the table, or for a YouTube video, or for getting better lighting somewhere. So that's been nice to have the flexibility of the wheels. And then I threw up like a little tension curtain rod so that I can have my elastics on a rolly system around the side. And then this was a key feature. I don't have it fully loaded right now, but I was super excited to make this whole table long enough that I could actually put 2 big rolls of fabric, because this is how the fabric I buy online comes in these really long rolls, and I never have a spot to store them. So this one's empty up top, but it could fit 2 big rolls here. And I put the rolls on these really thick wood dowels. So when I pull it, it just spins out really easily. It's super nice to be able to get the right yardage. And then I have some more kind of space inside here where I have a little charging station for all my camera gear and lights and stuff like that, some pattern weights. And then this is where we need to work on. I'd love any advice you have over here. On this side of the cutting table, I was really hoping to maybe come up with somewhere. I need like little shelves to, when I have fabric spread out over this whole thing, to put my iron, my electric rotary cutter, my mini iron, and then of course like cord management is crazy. So I'm still kind of working on what I want to go here. I'm plugging in across the wall over here. Yeah, and then my tabletop is probably one of the more lovely parts about this. And maybe it's one of the more expensive, because I wanted to get a really good batting for the ironing surface for like under my fabric up here. And so I did a little bit of research. I know you can get, polyester type stuff. I really wanted wool. I don't know why. I really wanted wool. I had heard that it was good for ironing on. And so I went for like a real wool and had to get something that was a little bit like dense so that this wasn't like a big fluffy thing. We need it to still be a little bit hard so that I can cut evenly on it and get everything smooth and ironed. So I really like what I picked out. And then this is I think cotton or linen cotton blend from Hobby Lobby that I made my own cover to go on top. that just has a channel and then cinches with drawstrings, which I need some better drawstrings to go through here, but those will do for now. And the funny thing about the wool being underneath that I was a little nervous about was on my first few times ironing on the table, it smelled a little bit like a barnyard. Like it definitely came out with like all the hot steam of the iron brought out a little bit of the smell of wool, of sheep. And I'm not necessarily, that's like a nostalgic smell, but I'm not necessarily looking for it all the time. So I was a little nervous, but it did fade away after a few uses of ironing on the surface. And either that or I've completely become desensitized to it, but I think it's gone away. And I absolutely love how just more confined and condensed this turned out. It is a huge staple of this room now and something I look forward to using. All right. It's fun being here. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.